Okay, today we've got a drill that focuses on switching play, but also finding the spare player to switch play through midfield. And it'll be a 3v3 plus 3 overloads. That means we've got 3v3 in the middle, and then we've got 3 overload players for the team in possession, so the team that's got the ball. So our objective today is to find the spare player in midfield and to switch play to the opposite side. So it's a positional drill. The pink players, the spare players, are replicating 2 wide midfielders and a pivot midfielder. And our objective is to play through those players. So if you think into a realistic game type situation, we're going from one side of the pitch into midfield, then to switch out to the opposite side of midfield. It's a really easy setup for this. So I've used a 20 by 20 square for this animation. What you might think about doing, and this is up to you, is if the objective is to switch play, is to make this wider and narrower. So you might have a 15 by 25, something like that. So it's wide because you're looking to switch to play wide and you're looking to replicate a wide area. But then you've really concentrated on a thin, narrow midfield section, so middle third of the pitch. So you might want to make the sides smaller and the tops and bottoms longer. Next thing is we want plenty of balls to reload. So as always, balls are going to go flying everywhere. So plenty of balls to reload and keep the play going. And I've got 9 players in this exercise. But if you want to play about with that again, you want 4v4 plus 3, that's fine. Just make the area suitable for the amount of players and they haven't got too much space. And the objective gets lost, it gets too easy. On that point, size is a really easy thing to manipulate to make things more challenging. There's a real sweet spot on what gets too challenging and the objective can't be completed, or what's not challenging enough and the game realism doesn't happen to increase our skill levels doing it. So you want to make it just challenging enough, but to make the pitch just tight enough is a really good way to do that. So instructions, it's a 3v3 in the midfield area, so the square inside the square is going to be our midfield area, and we've got a 3 whites versus 3 blues. We've got 3 overload players, so that's the players in pink in the animation. So these are positional, and they're going to be fixed in position, whereas the whites and blues will transition from having the ball to not having the ball, and it's a game realistic scenario. The pinks, the overload players, are going to play for the team that's got the ball all the time, and they're going to be fixed in position. So the wide players is a left and a right midfielder, and then the midfielder that's in the square, the pink that's in the square, is replicating, say, a pivot midfielder or a defensive midfielder. I would look to swap those players out every 3 or 4 minutes as well, just so everybody gets to jump into those roles. So in terms of how you score, so you get 1 point for successfully switching from one midfielder to the other midfielder. So from going from left midfield to right midfield, for example, would be 1 point. And then if you come from right midfield again without losing the ball to the left midfield again, then that's another single point. I would also look to reward for 2 points if you go through the pivot midfielder whilst doing that. So if you play from left midfield into the midfield section, the pivot midfielder gets on the ball and then switches out to the right, I would reward that with 2 points because we've gone through the positional objectives that we wanted. So really easy in terms of instructions. So just to reiterate, it's 3v3 in midfield, blue versus white. We've got 3 overload players in pink, so a left midfielder, a right midfielder and a pivot midfielder. You get 1 point for switching the ball successfully from one side to the other. And if you do that by going through the pivot midfielder, you get 2 points. Before we get into the coaching points, please like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference, and I would be really, really grateful if you did click that subscribe button. So let's jump into the coaching points. So coaching point number 1 is positional awareness. And what I mean by this is, are we utilising the full space of the square? Are we coming towards the ball or walking away from the ball to allow the person on the ball space? So remember, we've got an overload. We don't have to cramp in, we don't have to run towards it. And this is what, especially in the younger age groups, players will do. They'll all run towards the ball, and you'll see in square areas like this, if you said stop, stand still, which is an old coaching method, but if you did that, you'd see that in some cases, everybody would be crowded into one corner because everyone has gone towards the ball, and that's people in possession coming to get the ball. Everyone wants to come and get the ball. and then the defensive team trying to win the ball, all crowding around the ball as well. So what we've got to do in possession, so when we've got the ball, we've got to be brave enough to walk away from the player with the ball and walk into space. And that's, one, going to give them more space, but two, give yourself more space and a better chance to receive in space as well. What we also want to coach positionally here as well is that we're trying to find the spare player, and we're trying to find that overload. So this theme will repeat itself through multiple types of objectives, playing out from the back. For example, you want to find the spare player. In this example in midfield, we're trying to find the spare player. It doesn't always have to be the pivot player, but there is an overload in there. We've got a 4v3 in midfield, so we want to try and find that spare player to then be able to switch out to the far side. So there's 3 skills that we're going to try and teach through this. So the positional awareness is the objective really, and we're looking to coach movement, timing and scanning. Now movement's really important because of all the reasons we've just spoken about. Can we move into space? Can we do it in a way that we move into space, but we might take a player with us, and that opens up more space for somebody else to loop round into? So movement is going to create chaos in that defensive structure. So they're going to try and make it predictable, try and press in certain areas. What our movement does is pulls that apart and makes it more unpredictable so that we can find more space to play into. Timing is really, really important. So the timing of the run, the timing of the movement, the timing of the pass is all very important. What you'll find in drills like this is that players receive the ball and they look to offload it straight away. And we really want them to try and be brave enough to put the foot on the ball, draw a press in, and then that timing of the pass, when do I play the pass, is really, really important, because if I play it straight away, I might not have been pressed as much, but the person that was going to be pressing me is closer to the person I'm passing to, so it's an easier press for them. If I was to put my foot on the ball, time my pass more accurately, to wait until they've been drawn in and then play the pass, then it allows the person I'm passing to have more space and movement to play. And scanning is really, really important in a drill like this. I've said this a lot on this channel, but we are scanning to see and take in information. We're not just looking. There's a difference between looking over your shoulder and scanning. And scanning is taking in information, and one, either acting on that information, or two, communicating that information to the players around you to make it impactful in some regard. Next coaching point is communication to play through pressure. So again, what you'll find is a lot of these drills, again, especially at younger levels, is that everyone just chases the ball. They're all playing their own game and no one's really getting their head above water, their chin up, to look around. Even if they're not in the play and impacting the play at that moment, what you can do is get your head, have a look around, scan, see where the space is, communicate the space, and just alter people's positions around you. And that makes everything so much easier. We talk about communication a lot, and you can talk about communication in all sorts of drills for all sorts of purposes, but it is so, so important when we're trying to find position. And that you can't do that by yourself. You need teammates around you to help you find that position and to give you those instructions. How you might coach that is, if you're walking around the drill, you might ask a certain player while they're in and playing, you might ask them, what do they see? Look over your right shoulder, what do you see? Look over your left shoulder, what do you see? And just get them to say out loud what they see. That's going to be really tough for them to communicate to start with. But in the chaos of football, if you can get used to having the composure to look around and action that, then that's so powerful. And the last coaching point from an attacking perspective is just technique. So weight of pass, quality of pass. We want to make sure that we're getting those sort of things right. Could we have played off one touch, but we took 2 or 3 touches? And just our technique in general. So did we have a touch with the right part of the body? Is our body shape correct? And just step in and coach that bit as it happens. For a defensive perspective, and I wouldn't get too caught up coaching in possession with the ball and out of possession without the ball yourself. You're probably going to need another coach to help you do that, or split your time on either. Don't try and do both at the same time, it'd be too chaotic. But as a defensive coaching point, compactness is something that you want to see in here, so they're not getting played through. The team are having to play around them. When are they pressing? And I'd ask that question to them: when are they going to press? What are their pressing triggers? And ask them to decide themselves what their pressing triggers are. Get them to solutionize and solve problems. And making the play predictable, right? So as a defensive team, you want to try and make it as predictable as possible so your defensive teammates can understand what action is coming next. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's drill. Please like and subscribe. The like button's really, really important, and I'd be honoured if you did subscribe to the channel. Thank you.